Staff Sergeant Jack Monroe stepped off the transport ship and onto the gleaming floor of Nexus Station for the first time. His boots, polished to military perfection, made a soft clicking sound against the metallic surface. The enormous docking bay buzzed with activity as beings from 100 worlds moved about their business. Jack straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. After 15 years of fighting in the Proxima Centauri campaigns, being selected as Earth's military attaché to the Galactic Council should have felt like an honor. Instead, his stomach tightened with anxiety. "First time on Nexus?" asked a blue-skinned Ardani dock worker who was securing the transport's landing gear. "That obvious, huh?" Jack replied with a small smile. "You humans all get that same look," the Ardani said, "like you're trying to hide how impressed you are." Jack nodded and picked up his duffel bag. Humans had only joined the Galactic Alliance 11 years ago, making them the newest members by several centuries. Most of the senior races, especially the Valari, made it clear they viewed humans as primitive newcomers who had stumbled onto faster-than-light travel before they were ready for it. A small hovering bot approached Jack. "Staff Sergeant Monroe, I am Guide Unit 47. I will escort you to the council chambers. The security briefing begins in 20 minutes. Jack followed the bot through wide corridors filled with aliens of all descriptions. Some nodded respectfully at his uniform. Mostly, representatives of the younger races or those with military traditions of their own. Others, particularly the tall, silver-skinned Valerie, looked down their elongated noses at him as he passed. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seating for hundreds of delegates. At the center was a raised platform where the 7 senior races held permanent positions. The rest of the Alliance members sat in concentric rings around them, with the newest members furthest from the center. Jack found the human section, a small area near the back wall, and spotted the seat, marked with Earth's flag. As he approached, an aide handed him a data tablet with the meeting agenda. The topic was concerning: increased Void collective activity near Alliance space. Jack had fought the Void beings directly and carried scars where their energy forms had burned through his combat armor. Just as Jack was about to sit down, a cold voice cut through the chamber. "What is the meaning of this?" The room fell silent. Ambassador Zorlath of the Valari delegation stood at his central podium, pointing a long finger at Jack. "Why is there a human military officer at a high-security strategic briefing?" Zorlath demanded. The council chairperson, a purple-skinned Zilvan, cleared her throat. "Ambassador Staff Sergeant Monroe is Earth's appointed military attaché. His credentials were approved last week." Zorlath's silver face showed no emotion, but his voice grew colder. "A military attaché? The humans send a common soldier to a council briefing?" Several Valari delegates laughed softly. Jack remained standing, his face carefully neutral. "The security of the Alliance cannot be entrusted to representatives of primitive species who still rely on physical combat," Zorlath continued. "Humanity has barely mastered basic space travel. What could they possibly contribute to defense? Strategy against the Void Collective?" The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Everyone turned to look at Jack, clearly expecting an angry outburst. Humans had a reputation for being emotional and quick to take offense. Instead, Jack simply nodded once, placed his tablet on the seat, and turned to leave. "Sergeant Monroe," the chairperson called. "You don't need to—" "It's fine, Madam Chairperson," Jack said quietly. "I'll review." Jack sat alone in his small quarters on Nexus Station, reading through the security briefing summary on his tablet. The information was heavily redacted, with all the important details removed. He sighed and tossed the device onto his bed. His communication unit beeped. The screen showed it was his direct line to Earth Command. Jack straightened his uniform before answering. "Monroe here." Admiral Lisa Kelly's face appeared on the screen. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun and her eyes looked tired. "Sergeant, I received your report about the council meeting. Diplomatic channels are already buzzing with complaints about your treatment." "With all due respect, Admiral, I'd prefer we let it go," Jack said. "Making a fuss will only reinforce their view of humans as hotheads." The Admiral nodded. "Smart thinking. But there's more. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual energy signatures near Valeri Prime. The patterns match Void Collective movements we saw before the Proxima attacks. Jack leaned forward. The Void is targeting the Valeri homeworld? Did you share this with the Council? 3 times. The Valeri dismissed our data as primitive scanning techniques. They trust their defense systems to protect them. A soft knock interrupted their conversation. Jack glanced at his door. Someone's here. I'll call back, Admiral. When Jack opened the door, he was surprised to see Council Chairperson Zilvan standing there. Her purple skin shimmered slightly, under the corridor lights. Sergeant Monroe, may I enter? She asked, looking nervously over her shoulder. Of course, Madam Chairperson. Jack stepped aside, wondering why the head of the Galactic Council would visit his quarters in person. Once, inside, Zilvan's formal demeanor softened. I wanted to personally apologize for Ambassador Zorlath's behavior. It was unacceptable. Thank you, but that's not necessary. It is. She sat down, her forearms folded in her lap. But I'm also here about something else. I saw your combat record. You faced the Void Collective directly, yes? Jack nodded. 3 campaigns. I've seen what they can do up close. The Council is divided on the threat assessment. The Valeri believe their planetary shields are impenetrable, but... She hesitated. I'm concerned. Jack walked to his desk and pulled out a physical map of the Valeri system. The Void doesn't attack like conventional forces. They don't target military installations first. He pointed to several locations. They go after power generation. If I were planning their assault, I'd hit these shield generators simultaneously. Zilvan studied the map. Can you present this analysis to the Council? Would they listen to a common soldier from a primitive species? Jack asked without bitterness. Perhaps not openly, she admitted, but I would listen. After the chairperson left, Jack returned to his communication unit and called Earth Command again. This time, he spoke with General Frank Peters. The situation is worse than we thought, Jack explained. The Valeri are completely unprepared and they're blocking all warnings. The general's face remained expressionless. Your orders are to maintain your position and continue diplomatic efforts, Sergeant. Sir, millions of lives are at stake. Even if they insulted us, we can't just... I said those are your official orders. The general interrupted, giving Jack a meaningful look. Do you understand? Jack paused, then nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I understand completely. After the call ended, Jack began sending encrypted messages to his old unit from the Proxima campaigns. Within hours, responses came flowing in. Former squad mates, pilots he'd served with, engineers who'd patched his wounds, all ready to help without official orders. That night, as Nexus Station's lights dimmed to simulate evening, Jack stared out his viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Collective was gathering. Somewhere out there, a world that had rejected human help would soon desperately need it. And when that moment came, humanity would answer, not because they were asked, but because it was right. The non-classified summary later. As he walked out, Jack could hear the whispers of surprise. No shouting, no threats, no demands for respect. He simply left with dignity intact. Outside in the hallway, Jack took a deep breath and tapped his communication device. It was time to call home. Earth needed to know what had just happened, and what it might mean for the future of humanity in the stars. Jack was woken by a blaring alarm. Red emergency lights flashed in his quarters. His communication unit lit up with urgent messages as he jumped out of bed. All delegates report to the main council chamber immediately, announced a voice over the station's speakers. Jack quickly put on his uniform and rushed through corridors filled with panicked aliens. When he reached the council chamber, the room was in chaos. The main display showed a planet surrounded by swirling black and purple energy forms, the unmistakable signature of the Void Collective. Valerie Prime is under attack, said a young aide who rushed past Jack. At the center of the chamber, Ambassador Zorlath was shouting at the other council members. His silver skin had lost its shine, and his hands trembled. Where are your emergency response fleets? He demanded. Our outer defenses have already fallen. The representatives from other worlds looked away uncomfortably. No one had prepared for this. They had all believed the Valari shields were unbreakable. Jack moved closer to hear the chairperson Zilvan's response. "The nearest Alliance battle group is 3 days away," she said quietly. "We are sending all available ships, but 3 days?" Zorlath's voice cracked. "Our planet will be consumed by then. There are billions of civilians on Valari Prime." The chamber erupted in shouting. Some delegates blamed the Valari for their pride. Others argued about which world should send help first. Jack watched the tactical display with growing concern. The void entities were attacking exactly as he had predicted, targeting the shield generators first. The pattern was identical to what he had seen during the Proxima campaigns. His communication unit vibrated. The message was from Admiral Kelly. "Fleet mobilized, ETA 18 hours, maintain position." Jack looked up to see Ambassador Zorlath approaching him. The Valari's face showed something Jack had never seen before: fear. "Sergeant Monroe," Zorlath said, his voice now humble. "Your people have fought these creatures before. What can be done?" Jack met his gaze steadily. "The Void targets power systems first. Once your shields fail completely, they'll move to population centers. Our military forces are being overwhelmed," Zorlath admitted. "We need assistance, perhaps. Perhaps your human forces could offer some guidance." Jack remembered how this same ambassador had humiliated him days earlier. How he had called humans primitive and unworthy. It would be easy to throw those words back at him now. Instead, Jack simply said, "I'll consult with Earth Command." As Jack walked away, another council member grabbed his arm. It was Representative Voss of the Parathi, a species known for their direct speech. "Your people should let them suffer," Voss whispered. "The Valari have belittled humanity since your arrival in the Alliance." Jack gently removed the alien's hand. "That's not who we are." Back in a quiet corner, Jack made a secure call to Earth. General Peters appeared on screen, his face grim. "The situation is critical, sir," Jack reported. "Valari Prime has hours, not days. Their shield generators are failing exactly as we predicted." The general nodded. "Our response fleet launched 12 hours ago, Sergeant." Jack was stunned. "But the Council hasn't authorized." "Sometimes asking forgiveness is better than asking permission," the general said with a small smile. "Fleet Commander Diana Wright is leading the mission aboard the ECS Redem. The emergency council session had been running for 5 hours straight. Faces were tired, voices were hoarse, and still no solutions had been found. The display showed Valari Prime's situation worsening by the minute. Over 20 million civilians were already reported dead. "We need to evacuate the royal family immediately," one counselor suggested. "And leave our people to die?" Ambassador Zorlath shouted back. Jack sat quietly in the human section, watching the arguing continue. His communication unit vibrated. The message was simple: 5 minutes to arrival. He stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. The arguing stopped as delegates noticed the human soldier approaching the main platform, an area reserved for senior council members only. "Sergeant Monroe, you are out of order," said a security officer, moving to block his path. Chairperson Zilvan held up her hand. "Let him speak." Jack looked around at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They had impressive technology and ancient histories, but right now they were paralyzed by protocol and fear. "Earth has sent help," Jack said simply. The chamber erupted with questions. Jack raised his hand for silence. 12 ships from Earth's defense fleet will arrive at Valari Prime in approximately 5 minutes. They are led by Fleet Commander Diana Wright aboard the ECS Redemption. Ambassador Zorlath stepped forward. "Your council authorized this without consulting the Alliance?" "No," Jack replied. "Our forces deployed without authorization." Gasps filled the room. Unauthorized military action within Alliance space was a serious violation of treaties. "This is outrageous," shouted the Medusan ambassador. "Humans have no right to save lives," Jack interrupted, his voice still calm. "We've been monitoring the Void Collective for months. We developed weapons specifically to combat their energy forms. Weapons we offered to share with the Alliance 3 times, and were rejected 3 times. The main display suddenly changed. A new voice came through the speakers. "This is Fleet Commander Diana Wright of Earth Defense Force. We have entered the Valeri system and are engaging Void Collective forces." The display showed 12 human ships, small compared to most Alliance vessels but moving with remarkable speed and precision. They formed a defensive line between the Void entities and Valeri Prime's most populated continent. "Your vessels are no match for the Collective," Zorlath said, a mix of hope and doubt in his voice. Jack walked to the tactical display and pointed to the human ships. "We don't use energy shields like yours. Our hulls are lined with magnetic resonance plating. It disrupts the Void's neural patterns." As the Council watched, human ships fired unusual weapons, not the typical energy beams used by most Alliance vessels, but pulsing projectiles that seemed to unravel the Void entities where they hit. "That's impossible," whispered one of the senior scientists in the chamber. "No," Jack said. "It's just a different approach. Sometimes being primitive has advantages. We still believe in physical solutions to physical problems." The display showed human dropships heading to the planet's surface. "What are they doing?" asked Chairperson Zilvan. "Those are Marine rescue teams," Jack explained. "They're landing to evacuate civilians from the most threatened areas. But the Void will consume them on the ground," another counselor protested. Jack turned to face the council fully. "Maybe. But we don't leave people behind, even people who don't want our help." A new alert sounded. The display showed the ECS, Redemption, taking a direct hit from 3 Void entities. The ship's systems flickered but held. "Commander Wright reports that the Redemption is positioning to defend the Royal Palace," said the communications officer. "They're requesting landing coordinates for evacuation teams." The council members looked at each other in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they turned to look at Jack. "Why?" Ambassador Zorlath finally asked. "After how we treated you, why would your people do this?" Jack's answer was simple. "Because that's what soldiers do. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves." She should arrive within 6 hours. "The Council will view this as a violation of Alliance protocols," Jack warned. "Probably." The general's expression hardened. "But we don't let people die just because they were rude to us. That's not how humanity works." As Jack ended the call, emergency reports flooded the main display. The central shield generator on Valeri Prime had fallen. Billions of civilians were now exposed to the Void Collective's advance. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 12 human warships were racing toward them, uninvited but urgently needed. The surface of Valeri Prime was chaos. Buildings crumbled as Void entities flowed through the streets like living shadows. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal. Screams echoed everywhere. Lieutenant Sam Hayes led his squad of Marines through the ruins of what had once been a beautiful city center. Each soldier carried a pulse rifle designed specifically to disrupt the Void's energy patterns. "Movement ahead," warned Corporal Alan Reeves, pointing to a swirling mass of dark energy, blocking their path to the evacuation point. "Defensive formation," Sam ordered. The Marines formed a circle, weapons pointed outward. "Remember your training. Short bursts, aim for the center mass." The Void entity surged toward them, tendrils of energy reaching out like hungry fingers. The Marines fired in unison. Pulses of blue light struck the creature, causing parts of it to dissolve into harmless particles. "It's working," shouted one of the younger Marines. "Stay focused," Sam reminded them. "We still have 200 civilians to reach in that shelter." Above the planet, Diana Wright stood on the bridge of the ECS Redemption. Her ship shuddered as another Void entity tried to breach the hull. "Magnetic resonance shields holding at 37%, reported her first officer, Ben Collins. "We can't take much more of this." Diana studied the tactical display. 3 human ships had already been lost. The remaining 9 were spread thin, trying to protect the most populated areas of the planet. "The Valeri Royal Palace is still under heavy attack," Ben said. "If it falls, their government structure collapses." Diana made her decision. "Take us in closer. Position between the palace and that large Void cluster. Commander, that will expose our engines to direct attack. I know. Diana's voice was calm. Do it anyway. Back on Nexus Station, Jack watched the battle unfold on the main display. The council members were silent, their expressions a mix of awe and horror as they witnessed human soldiers fighting and dying to save Valari lives. Jack's communication unit chimed. It was Lieutenant Sam Hayes reporting from the surface. We've reached the shelter, Sergeant. There are over 300 civilians here, mostly children. The evacuation ships are on their way, Jack assured him. Hold your position. Sir, we only have enough pulse cells for about 20 more minutes of defense. Sam's voice crackled with static. And the void is getting thicker around us. Jack looked up at the council members who were listening to the exchange. We need more ships for evacuation. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ambassador Zorlath stepped forward. The Valari personal yacht fleet is at your disposal, Sergeant. They can reach the surface in 15 minutes. Thank you, Ambassador. Jack turned back to his communication unit. Sam, hold on. Help is coming. In orbit around Valari Prime, the ECS Redemption positioned itself directly in the path of the largest void cluster. The ship's hull glowed as the magnetic resonance plating worked to repel the energy beings. Shields at 12%, Ben reported. Engine core temperature rising to critical levels. Diana gripped the arms of her command chair. Reroute all non-essential power to the shields. We just need to hold them off until those civilians are evacuated. On the planet below, Sam and his Marines formed a protective circle around the shelter entrance. Valari children watched with wide eyes as the human soldiers fought off wave after wave of void attacks. Why are they helping us? One child asked, an elder. I don't know, the elder admitted. Their kind was no. Jack stared at the tactical display, his face grim. Despite the bravery of Diana's fleet and the Marines on the ground, the Void Collective was still advancing. 4 more human ships had been lost in the last hour. The evacuation was proceeding, but too slowly. We need more time, he muttered. Chairperson, Zilvan approached him. Your people have already done more than we had any right to ask, Sergeant Monroe. Jack nodded, then tapped his communication unit. General Peters, this is Monroe. I'm requesting permission to implement Operation Firewall. The council chamber grew quiet. No one knew what Operation Firewall meant, but the serious tone in Jack's voice made everyone pay attention. General Peters's response came after a long pause. That's a last resort, Sergeant. Are you certain? Yes, sir. We're out of options. Very well. Permission granted. Good luck, son. Jack turned to face the council. I need to get to Valari Prime immediately. What is this operation? Ambassador Zorlath asked. Something we developed after studying the Void for years, Jack explained. We discovered they're a hive mind. They share thoughts and feelings across their entire collective. That's their strength, but it might also be their weakness. A small transport was quickly arranged. As Jack prepared to board, Chairperson Zilvan stopped him. What exactly are you planning to do, Sergeant? Jack hesitated before answering. We created a neural interface that can connect to the Void's consciousness. If we can introduce human emotions and thoughts directly into their collective, it might disrupt their unity. You're going to mind meld with the Void? The chairperson looked shocked. Our scientists tried something similar a century ago. None of the volunteers survived. We know the risks, Jack said simply. 30 minutes later, Jack's transport landed. Near the Royal Palace on Valari Prime, Diana Wright met him at the landing pad, her uniform stained with blood and soot. The equipment is ready, she said without preamble. We've set up the interface in the palace's central chamber. It's the most defensible position we have. Inside, a team of human technicians worked around a strange device. It looked like a medical chair surrounded by pulsing blue lights. The latest casualty report, Diana said quietly, handing Jack a tablet. We've lost 6 ships and over 2,000 Marines. Jack studied the numbers, his jaw tight. Their sacrifice won't be wasted. A young technician approached. The interface is calibrated, Sergeant. We can link you directly to the largest void concentration above the palace. Just me? Jack asked. We need at least 3 neural connections to create a strong enough link, the technician explained. Diana stepped forward. I volunteer as the second. And I'll be the third, said a voice from the doorway. It was Lieutenant Sam Hayes, his armor scorched and dented. Sam, your team, Jack began. Safely evacuated with the civilians, Sam assured him. I came as soon as I got your message. The 3 soldiers sat in specially designed chairs. Technicians attached sensors to their temples and wrists. Once we connect, we'll be sharing consciousness with each other and with the void entities, Jack explained. We need to project specific emotions and memories, the strongest ones we have. Like what? Sam asked. Righteous anger at the sight of innocent suffering, grief for fallen comrades, determination to protect others. Jack paused. But most importantly, forgiveness and hope. The void has never experienced those emotions before. Diana nodded. They know how to hate and destroy. We'll show them something different. As the technicians made final preparations, Jack looked at his fellow soldiers. This might kill us. Sam smiled slightly. Dying to save others? That's what we signed up for. Diana reached out and gripped both men's hands. For Earth, for all beings who want to live in peace, the technicians activated the interface. Blue light enveloped the 3 humans as their minds reached out toward the swirling darkness above the palace. Jack's last conscious thought was a memory, his grandfather telling him that true courage was doing what was right, especially when it was hard. Then pain exploded in his mind as the void's alien consciousness crashed into his own, welcomed by our people. A Marine overhead the exchange. Despite his exhaustion, he smiled at the child. That's not how we make decisions about who deserves to live. In that moment, as human ships burned in orbit and human soldiers bled on alien soil, the Valari began to understand something that would change galactic relations forever. True strength wasn't measured in technology or age, but in the willingness to stand between the innocent and harm's way, regardless of past differences. Pain, darkness, alien thoughts rushing through his mind like a flood. Jack felt like he was drowning in a sea of strange and terrible ideas. The void's consciousness was vast and cold, filled with hunger and ancient knowledge. Stay focused, he thought, hoping Diana and Sam could hear him in this mental space. Remember the plan. Jack pushed forward his strongest memories, the day he joined the Marines, his first battle against the void at Proxima Centauri, where he had watched friends die, the moment when he carried a wounded alien child to safety during the Newton colony evacuation. He felt Diana and Sam doing the same. Their memories flowed into the collective consciousness of the void, human courage, human compassion, human determination. The void pushed back, images of planets consumed, civilizations destroyed, a hunger that could never be satisfied, the joy of absorption and destruction. Jack felt his mind starting to crack under the pressure. Then he focused on one specific memory, the moment when Ambassador Zorlath had humiliated him in the council chamber, and Jack had walked away with dignity instead of anger, forgiveness, the choice to help those who had rejected him. The void consciousness recoiled as if burned. This concept was alien to them, incomprehensible. A species that would risk itself for others, even after being treated with contempt. Across Valari Prime, the void entities suddenly paused their attack. The swirling darkness above the royal palace began to pulse erratically. In orbit, the human ships noticed the change immediately. Something's happening, reported Ben Collins from the bridge of the damaged Redemption. The void entities are confused. Inside the palace, the technicians monitored the 3 connected soldiers with growing concern. Their vital signs are critical, one said. Brain activity is off the charts. We need to disconnect them now. Wait, said another, pointing to the sensors. The void is retreating, it's working. Jack, Diana, and Sam pushed harder, driving more human emotions into the alien consciousness. The cost was terrible. Blood began to trickle from their noses and ears as their brains struggled under the immense strain. In his mind, Jack felt something unexpected. The void was changing. Parts of the collective were breaking away, rejecting the hive mind. For the first time in its ancient existence, the Void Collective was experiencing doubt. With one final surge of mental energy, Jack projected a simple message: leave, live, learn. Across the Valari system, the void entities began to withdraw. The darkness above the planet slowly dispersed, breaking into smaller units that retreated toward deep space. Inside the palace, alarms screamed as Jack, Diana, and Sam collapsed. Medical teams rushed forward. "Disconnect them now," shouted the lead technician. 3 days later, Jack opened his eyes in the medical bay of Nexus Station. His head throbbed with pain and his vision was blurry. A familiar purple face came into focus. "Welcome back, Sergeant," said Chairperson Zilvan. "You've been unconscious for 3 days." Jack tried to speak, but his throat was dry. A nurse helped him sip some water. "Diana? Sam?" he managed to ask. "Commander Wright is recovering well," the chairperson said. "Lieutenant Hayes," she paused. "He suffered severe neural damage. The doctors are still working on him." Jack closed his eyes, grief washing over him. "You should know," Zilvan continued, "that the death toll among your forces was significant. Over 3,000 human soldiers and crew members gave their lives to save Valari Prime." She placed a hand gently on his. "But you saved millions of Valari lives, including the entire royal family." Jack tried to sit up but was too weak. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Valari Prime. The planet's cities were being rebuilt. The scars of the Void attack would remain for generations, but life was returning to normal. Jack Monroe stood on a hillside overlooking the capital city. A large stone monument rose before him, engraved with the names of every human who had died saving this world. Over 3,000 names. His hand traced the words carved at the base in both Valari and English. They came without invitation to die on foreign soil. The neural scars from connecting with the void still troubled Jack. Headaches came without warning. Sometimes his vision blurred or his hands shook. The doctors said these symptoms would likely remain for life. "It's a beautiful monument," said a voice behind him. Jack turned to see Ambassador Zorlath approaching slowly. The Valari diplomat looked older now, the silver of his skin dulled by stress and grief. "Your people chose a good location for it," Jack replied. "You can see the whole city from here." "That was intentional," Zorlath said. "We wanted the names of Earth's fallen to watch over the people they saved." They stood in silence for a moment. The wind rustled through strange alien trees with purple leaves. "The Galactic Council session begins tomorrow," Zorlath said finally. "Your formal acceptance of the defense chair position is the first item on the agenda." Jack nodded. "My last official duty before retirement." "Retirement?" Zorlath seemed surprised. "But you're young for a human, aren't you?" "Some wounds don't show on the outside, Ambassador." Jack tapped his temple gently. "The doctors say my mind needs rest." Understanding crossed the Valari's face. "The neural interface, I'm sorry," Jack shrugged. "Small price to pay. Diana Wright recovered fully. Sam Hayes is finally walking again." He smiled slightly. "And an entire world still stands. What will you do after retirement?" "Go home to Earth, maybe teach at the academy." Jack looked up at the alien sky. "I've seen enough of space for a while." The next day, Jack entered the council chamber on Nexus Station for the last time. The room looked different now. The seating had been rearranged. Earth's section was no longer at the back wall but had moved forward, closer to the center. Jack wore his dress uniform with its rows of medals. The newest one, the Valari Star of Salvation, gleamed at his collar. As he walked to the podium, representatives from every world stood in respect. His speech was brief. Jack had never been one for many words. 6 months ago, I was turned away. From this chamber, he began. Today, you offer me a seat of honor. The difference is not in me, but in what you have seen." Jack looked around the room, meeting the eyes of alien diplomats from 100 worlds. "Humanity is young compared to most of you. Our technology is less advanced, our history is shorter. But we have learned something valuable in our brief existence. He paused, choosing his words carefully. True advancement isn't measured by the power of your weapons or the age of your civilization. It's measured by what you're willing to do for others, especially those who cannot repay you or who have wronged you. Jack touched the neural implant visible at his temple. I accept this position, but only to formally pass it to Commander Diana Wright, who will serve with distinction long after I return to Earth. As Jack finished speaking, something unprecedented happened. The council members began to tap their hands on their desks, the human gesture of applause spreading through the chamber like a wave. Later that evening, Jack sat in a small bar on Nexus Station. Around him were soldiers from a dozen worlds, Valeri, Ardani, Human, and many others, sharing drinks and war stories. To the fallen, Jack said, raising his glass. To the fallen, the others echoed. In that moment, Jack knew the true victory wasn't the seat on the council or the monument on Valeri Prime. It was this: soldiers from across the galaxy, sitting together as equals at last. There are representatives from every major world waiting outside to thank you, Sylvan said, and the council has called an emergency session for tomorrow. The first item on the agenda is the creation of a permanent seat for humanity on the Defense Council. She smiled slightly. They are recommending you as its first chairperson. Jack shook his head slightly. I'm just a soldier. No, Sylvan said firmly. You have shown the galaxy what humanity truly is, and we have much to learn from you.